so today we are with David Farmer, who is the owner, founder, chief bottle washer of this company that he created called AdGiants. And we've been using him at the chamber now for over a year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I wanted to have him on today to kind of talk about advertising, marketing, specifically marketing, because that's kind of where everybody is today, digital marketing. And I want to start though by letting you know just who David Farmer is, because I think it's important that you understand the experience and background that he brings. So, David, when did you start your career in this industry?
1980.
Okay.
How's that? That's a long time ago.
Yeah, it is. It's a long time ago.
Yeah. I feel sorry for kids today. They have such a hard time figuring out what they want to do and then even getting a job. No one wants to interview in person. It's bizarre. But I fell into advertising. It was completely accidental. I didn't even know what it was. I was going to go to law school because my brother and sister were doctors. And then I switched over and I've always drawn, been artistically inclined, and ran into some guy that's like, you got to go into advertising. And I was like, what is that? So that's literally how I started. I bought a book on how to create a portfolio, which I found out was how you get a job coming through the art side. I never even knew about the account service side. I just knew about the creative side. And I knew I didn't want to be a writer. I want to be an art director. And so I bought a book at the art store, put a portfolio together, went down the streets of Manhattan, bought a plane ticket, went up there and walked down this Madison Avenue, literally, and got a lot of no's. And then the last one, they hired me. And I started at the very bottom, just what was called a mechanical artist then, because we didn't have computers. So when you made an ad, you actually had to create it, like order the type, put wax on the back of it, paste it to a board. There was a lot of hand skills. It was a craft back then. People always say when they see drafting tables and they see that big magnifying glass, they go, what is that for? Well, you take an X-Acto blade, and when the type comes in and you have to kern the letters on certain letters, you have to literally cut the letters apart and push them together. And, it was pretty crazy.
So how long did you stayed in that industry before you actually went off on your own? But so how long were you in that? And then just kind of give me a brief overview of that experience.
It was 22 years. I started, like I said, in the mechanical department. 6 months later, I was a junior art director. I got out and I figured out what the ladder was to climb it and what I had to do. And so I just started climbing the lather, and I climbed really quickly. And I was always at big agencies like McCann Erickson, which was in Mad Men, and Oakley and Mather and places like that. But back then, everyone had very defined roles in the agency. And I knew that if I was going to want to get to where I wanted to get, I needed to learn a lot of different jobs there. So once I feel like I was kind of mastering the art direction side of it, I started learning copywriting and creative direction and how to manage people and how to come up with strategies. And you become a migrant worker as a creative guy. You get as much as you can out of that agency, like what accounts they have, and then you move up to some other agency that's got better accounts. And so you end up with a very diverse portfolio. So if someone said, have you ever worked on an orange juice, for example, I can say I've worked on 4 orange juice brands, right? Or have you ever worked on a soda pop? I've worked on 3 of them, So your value is connected to your experience, and it's not just experience in branding, it's experiencing business modeling. And I know you're interested in that. And that's what fascinated me, was how each company makes a buck. Because marketing should begin and end with, how do I make somebody a buck? A lot of people look at it like an art form. It's not. That's why they call it, commercial art, because it's supposed to make money. And that's what I did. And then I eventually grew up to the executive creative director, senior vice president at McCann Erickson, and then the holding company Omnicom. At that point, I was I was so disengaged from the actual creative process at that point. I was either flying somewhere to win new business for the agency and pitch accounts, or talk somebody off a ledge from firing us. That's what I was doing. So yeah, I mean, it was incredible 22 years. And then I played a really important, I think what turned it for me was, what year was that? It was like 1991 or two, when people started putting computers on the desktops of people for email and stuff. But then people were talking about, designing on these things. And there's this new thing called a Mac. And they had an operating system that was more for designers. So as the agency behemoth, they were trying to figure out, should we go PC or should we go Mac? And so I ran the traps for the agency globally to what we were going to decide. And of course, we went Mac. And then once I got indoctrinated to the computer and the efficiencies that were in it, it's just how I work. I was like, how can we make things better using this tool on my desk now? And I realized that the advertising agency model had never been reimagined. And clients at that time were changing. They were starting, like Coca-Cola was one of my main accounts, Coke Classic. They started breaking the account apart, which was like an $800 million account. And they'd say, sports marketing is going to go to this agency. Specialized web is going to go to this agency. They started breaking it out when we used to have the whole thing. And then I realized, the loyalty was eroding. I was like, how can we capture and make ourselves more efficient so we don't lose dollars because the clients are cutting back? And that's what really started the whole idea for AdGiants was that. And then lastly, I'll let you get into a question here. Lastly, I knew that there was a lot of underserved companies that were out there. Agencies tended to service the Fortune 1000 companies, and they just pass them around like who's got Burger King this year kind of a thing. But there were, tens of millions of small businesses out there. Their problems are exactly the same as Coca-Cola. They just don't work at the same budget level, but it's the same challenge that they have. What they were missing was someone to come in and say, let's talk about where you want your company to go and a strategy of how we're going to get there. And people look at marketing as a pretty ad or website or whatever. Those are tactics. The real juice in the glass is the strategy. And so that's when I set forth and said, I'm going to bring Madison Avenue level processes and thinking to the everyday small business.
Okay, so let's talk about that. I know that, every small business I know struggles with marketing, and they struggle with the strategy. They struggle with all of it. But what are some of the biggest mistakes, even though they attempt, what are some of the biggest mistakes that they make when they start to try to do marketing?
They dive right into the tactics. They see ads for build your own website here, drag and drop, go to Fiverr and hire someone to do your logo. They jump right into the tactics, everything. And it's natural because those tools are out there and they're not expensive on the internet to use. Canva or to use, any one of these platforms, SurveyMonkey, MailChimp. All of these things they can go out and they can use on their own. The problem is they all bait you and say, here's a template you can use. It's professional looking and stuff. And that's true. You can go to MailChimp and open up templates that look wonderful, but you pick one and then all of a sudden you're staring at a screen and it's saying, okay, what do you want to say? Well, you got to change the words from lorem ipsum to something.
Lorem ipsum. So
what's that going to be, and that's where they go, oh crap, I this is hard. But backing up, the biggest mistake is getting too tactical too quick. The biggest mistake is not holding your budget accountable. And what I mean by that is, for every dollar you make, even if you're a small business, you should say, I'm going to put 10 cents of every dollar I make towards my marketing. Okay, now you have a budget. Okay, if I make, X amount of dollars a month, that equates to this much money for marketing. Now, what do I do with that? If you want to go down your own pathway, what I always do is called a SWOT analysis with our customers. It's really standard marketing 101. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. What are your strengths? What are your opportunities in your category? What are your weaknesses and what are the threats from your competition? If you begin to think like that, you start seeing your customer way more clearly. And that's another thing. People think they know their customer, whether you're a dry cleaner or a restaurant, they think they know their customer. I would advise people to really spend some time first asking your customers a lot of questions like, how would you like me to communicate with you? How do you want me to tell you I've got a deal on this item that we're selling or this service that we have? How can I be efficient to speak to you without making you do a whole lot of work? We all get barraged with spam email and texts and all kinds of stuff. Understand that customer and how they make a decision. And then the other thing is find out where your customers are living. Find out, if you can't talk to them, specific customers and demographics are in certain places. I know that an African-American female between 20 and 25 is going to live this type of lifestyle. So if I want to do, for example, I have a nail salon and I want to get to, and I know my best customers are African-American women between 18 and 25. Well, that's not real hard. I know they're going to be in parts of clubs, groups, associations, faith groups, and churches. You just start thinking about where do these people hang out? And then once you get to there, you go, is there an opportunity there for me to somehow co-partner with somebody, create a win-win for wherever those people are living? So you go in and say, hey, salon that actually does the hair for these same women, for every lead that you send me that comes from you, I'm going to give you X amount of dollars, and vice versa. Every customer I send to you, go out and get other people to be disciples for you. We instantly jump into paid advertising or social media posts. Well, again, social media in and of itself is a great tool. And it's really become the tool. I mean, digital media is really it.
Yeah, it really is.
But even still, do you know enough about it? Because I don't think people understand that you can actually segment and geofence a zip code and say, I want everybody on Facebook in this zip code to see my ad. Instead of just blasting it out to everybody on Facebook, it's like, be efficient, go through it and do it that way. So just thinking smarter about who your customer is and what they want to hear from you. I mean, put yourself in their shoes. What would make me want to buy something from that place? Why do I care? There's 10 other places like that. It could be that you're the nicest person in the world or your staff's great.
Okay. So you said something, and to me, and I preach this all the time, is the differentiator. Why you? What makes you different? Because you're right. Every business has a jillion competitors. So what's your message? What drum are you going to be beating?
Yeah. It sounds so simple, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's hard. Let's just say you own a hamburger stand. Well, probably in 10 square blocks of where you're sitting right now, there's probably 14 hamburger stands. It's like, why would I go to one versus the other? People pick it because sometimes of atmosphere, or they like the vibe they get when they go there, or they like the onion rings, the way they do it. You need to figure out what it is about your place that makes it special. So when people say, you got to try this hamburger, it's a hamburger. No, you got to try this place. They have a special sauce nobody else has, and if you don't have that special sauce, freaking find one. Go online and find out, world sauces, and Google the most tasty sauce ever used on a sandwich and start putting it on your damn hamburgers. Do something. It's a bad argument when you say, well, our hamburgers, we make it with only Angus beef and it's way better than theirs because whatever. I mean, you have to do something that is perceived value or perceived difference, like you're saying.
Yeah. So how do people, because you and I've talked about this before, how do people get in their way?
Yeah. How do they get out of their own way?
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah. We all do it. I mean, there's things, each one of us have our little ticks that we know we do. And it's not, you're not sabotaging yourself, but you're kind of like, get out of your way. If you know that you're a procrastinator or whatever, and you keep saying, I'll take care of it. Don't worry, I'll get that to you. Well, don't make somebody wait a month and keep asking for it. If you know that's your weak point, delegate it. Give it to somebody else to do. And if marketing is one of those things where you want to be involved in, but you tend to know you slow the process down, hire someone to do it for you and just be the approver or disapprover. Don't get yourself involved, because a lot of owners of businesses feel like they can do everything. They can know your limits. If that's not what you're comfortable doing, even if you like it, marketing is kind of a fun thing, it can be, it should be, but so people want to be engaged with it, but a lot of people can't make a decision. So, and a lot of times the biggest one that I see is, and this is sometimes why I kick myself at 2 a.m. back in the day when I'd be working, I'd say, why did I pick this career? It is a subjective business. It's art. It is art from that standpoint. People don't know what they don't like until they see it. When it's a blank piece of paper, they're like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. Let me go hire someone who's really brilliant at this and ask them to do it. And then they do it and put it on their desk and like, no, this sucks. You need to do this and this and this. And it's like, now you're an expert, right? 10 minutes ago, the page was blank. You weren't, right? So I used to teach the Portfolio Center in Atlanta, which is an advertising school. And I used to say, you have to look at it as a ratio, because everyone wants your portfolio to be great. And especially the young people in advertising. And you have to say, you need to understand you're here to make money for your clients, not line your portfolio with award-winning ads, right? So, but used to say is, they go, good, farmer, they keep killing all my stuff. And so I'd say, look at it like a ratio. For every 10 ads that you do, work really hard on them, one of them will come out nice. The other 9 won't be like you want them to be, but that's okay as long as they work. And the magic thing is to have an ad that's really great, but it also works. And it's a lot more rare than you think. And what I have found out, going back to my previous point, is it's not that an agency's not creative enough or that person's not creative enough. It's usually the client. The client doesn't get out of the way and they start meddling in it. Great advertising should make you a little nervous, should literally make you a little nervous. Where you kind of go, oh God, now, especially being bombarded with so much stuff, your stuff's got to stick out.
Yeah, you got to be bold. You can't, you're just like what you said earlier, we're bombarded with so much that you just literally, I know I do it, delete as I go through things. So you've got to be able to get attention quickly. I think that's what you do really well, David, is, you know how to grab the attention. But it's like you said, though, people are afraid to do that because it's a little edgy.
Change is hard.
Mm-hmm.
You and I both know that. And without naming names, there was a project that we were involved with, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a perfect example of how to break out. This was in a category where everybody does it the same all over the world. And no one changes it because they're typically led by committees, city committees and things like that, right? And everybody's saying, oh, come see us, come visit us. It's going to be great. Everybody says that, right? So what did we come up with? We don't want you to come visit us. Don't come here. It's exactly the opposite of what everybody's doing. The reason we did that was because we could hang a hat by saying, don't come here. It allowed us to sell the place in a very unassuming way. Instead of being braggadocious, we're saying, we don't want you to know about all these great things, because then you're going to come. So don't come. See, that's creativity right there. But that also scared the hell out of a lot of people. They're like, what? You're going to tell them not to come here? It's like, you don't really see the bigness of this, do you? Right? And they didn't. And it didn't happen. What happened? But then it didn't happen. But that's the part that should make people nervous. And that's what I always tried to do in all of the campaigns I ever worked in. I always tried to stand it on its head. Because even, 40 years ago, traditional advertising was television, radio, outdoor boards, ads, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And I felt like the canvases were so much more fun back then because, I did a campaign. I remember one time for Six Flags. No. It was back, in the 80s, it was nightclubs.
Yeah.
There were big companies out in New York that owned all these chains like Confetti's and all these really big nightclubs. And we worked for this company out in New York that owned them nationwide. And I did a campaign, and on the billboards, we used blacklight paint. You remember back when you'd go to Spencer's Gifts and the blacklight would be
Oh,
on?
yeah.
Oh, wow,
Spencer's.
this is cool, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So during the day, they were super vibrant and stuff, but we also used the white vibrant paint that shows up blue so you couldn't see it during the day. And then what we did is we went to 3M, who did all the outdoor boards, and we asked them to change all the light bulbs out with black light bulbs. So they're all on the freeway. So when the sun would go down and those lights would come up, I mean, they were jumping off onto the freeway and it was causing car wrecks. So they actually had to take them down because it was too dangerous. But people loved them. The messaging and the stuff was amazing what we did. But again,
Well, but you're right though, because what you're saying, I mean, we all remember the campaigns and the ads and the marketing that is different. You don't remember the standard
right.
blah blah.
Those are I mean, that's what I call standing stuff on its head, taking a medium and how has it never been done before? I had a friend that worked on Nike back in the 80s, and they were the ones that did those billboards, the first ones in LA, where they were across the freeway from each other, and it showed the quarterback on one side throwing the ball and the guy on the other side catching it.
Yeah.
You know, so they're using the mediums to kind of point where people go, oh, wow, that one over there is throwing a ball to the one over there. You know, that to me, that's what I strive for, is just something that's never really been done before in things. But,
Well, you know
coming
what?
back to small businesses, it's get to know your customers. Don't jump to tactics right away. And what makes you different? How
Yeah.
can you show yourself as something different?
Well, one of the courses that we do around here is based on the book that The Purple Cow.
Mhm.
It's the same concept. If all you see is a brown cow, brown cow, brown cow, and all of a sudden you see a purple one, you go like, hey, wait a minute, that's a purple cow.
Yeah.
But then you don't stay, just because you did it once, here's the trick. You got to continue to reinvent, and
Right.
come up with something different all the time. But that's challenging for most small businesses.
Or just have something that's so unique that becomes your cliche kind of pinpoint that everyone remembers, whether in your restaurant, you've got, the Rock of Gibraltar in there or something, it's like, oh, we got to go there and kiss the rock or whatever it is. We all have been around brands that have something that's just will never change. It's just the way it is. And that's great. And not every small business can do that, but there are things within your business that you can do to differentiate yourselves. Even if, let's go back to the nail salon example, what if you had a special every single day that was tied into the day of the week? What ladies like to do midweek or Thursdays, it's a 2 for Tuesday, do your toes and your nails, and you get half off. Or, I mean, those little things, those little gimmicks, they start getting around where it's like, oh, I'm going for the 2 for Tuesday thing to get my manicure and pedicure or whatever. It can be simple stuff like that.
So we've been on for about 30 minutes. What do you feel your best words of advice when it comes to marketing for small businesses?
It's kind of everything that we've already mentioned, but to summarize, it's really have a budget set. And then this is one of the things I wanted to mention. When I talked about having accountability for your marketing, you've carved out your 10 cents a dollar, whatever that may be. The way to look at it is to say, okay, it's going to cost me $500 to do this marketing program or whatever it is I'm going to do, whether it's an ad or it's a promotion or whatever that might be. How many things do I need to sell to recoup that $500? In most cases, you'll find out it's like one thing or maybe two sales or whatever will pay for it. Then in your mind, you can go, okay, if I know by statistics, if I do, let's just say, an email campaign with 25% off a nail thing at the nail salon again, and I blast it out to 5,000 people, I'm probably going to get at least 10 people. Okay, so that cost me $500, but I'm going to get 10 people. That's going to be $50 a piece. So that just paid for it. So I'll break even. It's always having those numbers in your head for the expectation, so that you don't just go, well, I lost my butt on that one or whatever. Have the math ready, so just one more and we're break even. Everything after that's going to be profit. So your marketing, look at it like a line item in your budget. It is. It's not just something you do to look pretty or be out there or have. Well, the other thing too is stay away from brand awareness stuff, where it's just where you'll get a lot of people come in and go, oh, you need to run an ad in our local newspaper or whatever because we have 100,000 impressions. It's like, you're not going to get squat from that. I mean, because what I look at it, it's like, have I ever seen an ad in a local newspaper that's made me want to go do that? That doesn't have a buy one, get one free attached to it that I rip out? No.
Yeah.
I
That's
might
the
know
other
the company
thing.
and go, oh, I've seen them on Main
Yeah.
Street. Who cares?
That's ego.
That's ego. That's all
That's
ego
feeding your
marketing.
ego. That's all it's doing.
The other thing too is have a website presence, but just don't have a website. Make it do stuff for you. You know, again, tie it back into some of your promotions and share this link on my website with 10 people and I'll get you the 11th thing is free kind of a thing, kind of like one of those frequent buyer cards or whatever. Websites need to work harder than just be a front window for your company. You need to make them do something now. And it's up to like 68% of people now look at your website on their mobile device. So you better make damn good sure your website looks good on the mobile device. And if it does have a mobile aspect to it, there's things that you can do on the mobile device you can't do on a desktop because they're driving around. You can put alerts that when they get within 1 mile of your place, it brings a notification, says, come by for our chili burger today. I mean, there's things like that. So use the technology, use these opportunities for your advantage and stop trying to reinvent the wheel.
Well, and the other thing is once you do it, then come up with a plan, be consistent with it. A lot of people think they'll get immediate results and then they get them and then they stop. And you can't stop. You have to continue to do it.
It's water over a rock.
Yeah.
You just got to keep doing it. Even if it's a small amount, keep doing it. And one of my accounts back towards the end was Sonic. You know, we came up with the 2 guys in the cars, the comedian guys, and we reinvented their whole menu. I mean, before that, they literally were just hamburgers and tots and things. But what we did is we went out and did an exhaustive interviews before we did any marketing with them, starting with their menu. And they're like, you're an ad agency. What do you got to do with our product? And it's like, well, we need to differentiate you. So that's when we came up with, you know, the sausage on a stick with a pancake wrapped around it for breakfast. Things like that people go, you can't get that anywhere else. You know, you're going to be the first out there with it. So anyone after that's a copycat. Or the what do they call it? Happy hour, where you get your drinks for $1. All that kind of stuff. It's everything that we've just been talking about, but at a scale of Sonic. And it quadrupled their business in the first year. It was off the charts. And then we hired a couple of comedians and for efficiency's sake, we would film, you know, go to film one commercial for like, just say, you know, happy hour drinks for slushies. And then we would know we had the guys in the car. So we'd sit there and say, let's throw 5 other products at them and get them to do. So we'd walk away from 1 day shoot with 30 commercials in our pocket because it wasn't contingent upon different setups or scenes. We'd just move the car, move the camera, different bay, different thing like that. And then we just give these comedians that say, all right, we want to talk about cherry slushes, go. And they just riff on it for half an hour and we just take the best takes. So again, it's just being smart about what you're doing and how you say it. And now, I mean, if you mentioned Sonic, you know, they're pretty much well known for those things we just talked about, the happy hour and the guys in the car making jokes.
Yep.
You know, and that lasted like 15 or 16 years before, you know, then they feel like, well, we got to do something different. No. Don't mess with it. It's a good thing. Don't mess with it.
Well, David, I appreciate you taking some time out of your day to visit with us and share some
Yeah.
tips of information.
Thank you for talking. I always love talking to you.
AdGiants.com, right?
Yeah, free marketing plan. You get to talk to a fool like me for 30 minutes on your first call. I ask you a lot of questions, and then in the second phone call, we go over a marketing plan for you. So I can say this, you know, not just me, but other people like me can tell you what you ought to be doing. And then if you don't like
and I
it,
think the cool thing is
please.
that you've got this network of people that you've worked with over the years. So you've got people dedicated with all these different specialties, which I know when I first started delving into this and found you and responded to an email that you sent me, that was what I was looking for, because that's what I saw our members needed.
Mhm.
And it's very difficult. There's not a one-stop shop anywhere. And the reason why is because there's experts in all of those branches underneath marketing, right?
Yeah, we take advantage and we went out and you can't be a consultant with us with less than 15 years of big agency experience. And the reason we do that is we want people that have been there, done that. And like I said, it's a very fast business. It's very easy after 15 years to have assimilated, hundreds of businesses that you've worked on and business models. So we haven't found anyone that stumped us yet and said, wow, we've never worked on something like that. And our whole platform allows the pros to all collaborate if they need it. But most of our guys have been there and seen those business models, and then they know how to execute the marketing to make it work. So, yeah.
All right, AdGiants.com. Thank you,
Thank you,
David.
Lori. See you later.